National Weather Service in Raleigh. It's Nick Petro with your winter weather briefing for Central North Carolina on this January the 9th. I'll update that time. It's actually 5:30, not 3:48 as the slide suggests. So this is the last webinar for the day today. And although, you can count on the slides being updated, posted to our webpage and emailed out if you're on our email list. Certainly throughout the night if things change, if conditions warrant. We'll be doing an all-day webinar starting at 9:30 tomorrow with updates on the hour. So anyway, tomorrow's showtime. So anyway, what has changed since we talked at 11:30? It's the watches and warnings. Any advisory situation. The pink are counties where there's a winter storm warning, and the blue is where there's a winter weather advisory. Now, again, I always try to tell folks, focus more on the impacts. There isn't much difference between a winter weather advisory and a winter storm warning, at least here in the Carolinas. I mean, advisory amounts cause a lot of problems around this part of the country. So anyway, you'll see here in a minute what I'm referring to. So this is just the text of the warnings. I included this in case anybody's interested. Again, I've already emailed these slides. So if you're wondering when am I going to send these out, if you check your inbox, you already have them. They've already been posted to our webpage. So you can read the details here on your own. The key messages haven't changed much since 11:30 this morning. We did add one additional key message. So just to kind of reiterate, light snow will move into central North Carolina from southwest to northeast between 3 and 7 p.m. tomorrow. The arrival time will be closer to 3 p.m. across the southern and southwest Piedmont and Triad regions, that maybe the triangle around 5 p.m., closer to 7 p.m. across the northern coastal plain regions. So that's our timing. We haven't really changed that much, if any. Again, don't focus so much on the exact snow and ice amounts that are forecast, but on the hazards and impacts. And to that point, there'll be enough snow and ice accumulations to result in hazardous travel conditions beginning late Friday and lasting through Saturday. This is the bullet we just put in. Due to cold ground temperatures, the snow and ice is highly likely, that is, to stick and freeze, preventing melting and enabling rapid accumulation, particularly when it starts tomorrow. Black ice may be a subsequent concern Sunday morning and Monday morning. And then finally, I did tweak this fourth bullet. There's a growing concern that this might be a bigger ice storm than we previously thought. In fact, there may be enough ice accumulation from freezing rain to result in downed trees and power lines and power outages, and everybody should prepare now for possibility of losing power. So, just to reiterate that cold, this is current conditions. So a couple things I want to point out. Let me stop this at the last frame. Number one, right now we have clear skies over central North Carolina. If you look outside, you're not going to see a cloud in the sky. So these temperatures, thanks to the clear skies, are going to fall pretty quickly. It's already cold. Look at that. It's already near freezing in the parts of the Triangle, Triad, and Piedmont and North Carolina, mid-30s elsewhere. I mean, it's cold to begin with. It's been cold. So these temperatures will fall off pretty quickly under clear skies. And then as we go just to our west, you can see the high clouds are beginning to move across the Tennessee Valley. So what will happen is these temperatures will plummet. And then tomorrow morning, we will already have clouds over us by the morning hours. So we're going to start off really cold, temperatures in the 20s. And the high clouds should prevent much sunshine. So we may not get as much heating as we otherwise would. So it's a wonderful setup for snow and ice. Quite frankly, I always say you got to get the cold air here first, and the cold air is here. All right. So the other thing I want to draw your attention to is the dew points. This concerns me probably more than anything else. These are single-digit dew points. Okay, and dew points a measure of humidity and moisture. And the lower these numbers, the drier it is. And single digits is about as dry as it gets in this part of the country. I mean, that's really, really dry. And why is that important? Because when this initial batch of precipitation that's moving across the Mississippi Valley, moves east and finally begins to fall out of the clouds over central North Carolina, around this time tomorrow or even earlier, those initial precipitation batches, if you will dry up. And the process of drying precipitation basically eats up heat and makes it colder. It actually, makes the temperature colder. So when that initial batch of precipitation falls out, it'll dry up and drive the temperatures down even more. So anyway, again, just a good setup for all this. Okay, so I wanted to point out those couple things going into this event. All right, so let's get into some of the details here. It didn't really change a whole lot here. Basically, we wanted to highlight that the biggest change probably is this right here. Highest ice totals now expected along and 30 miles either side of a line from Rockingham to Sanford to Raleigh to Rocky Mount. Okay, and I'll show you that graphically here in a minute. And everything else is pretty much the same, what we talked about earlier: snow, ice, power outages, black ice, and hazardous travel. These I updated. This is the storm evolution. And I updated this because, we have dozens and dozens and dozens and dozens of precipitation type simulations. And I finally found one that I really liked. And when I say liked, I mean it fits the conceptual model of how I think this will probably play out. So I finally found one that I think fits what we're going to see. Of course, please use these with caution. Obviously, even the one that I think is the best is still can be subject to large errors, both in timing and placement. And again, just to reiterate, these are only presented to give an approximate estimating of timing. So don't take this to the bank. So anyway, snow moves in, 3 o'clock. We're talking about the initial batch of snow across the southwest Piedmont coming up on the Triad. By 6 p.m., that eastern edge of that initial snow is up to the Triangle, maybe sleet instead of snow down near Fayetteville, but basically snow elsewhere. And then by 9 o'clock, the snow is overspread all of central North Carolina, with the exception of basically a line from Goldsboro to Lillington over towards Norwood and point south, where it'll probably be sleet. Okay, so basically that early evening precip will be a mixture of snow and sleet, snow north, sleet south. Okay, so again, and as we pointed out, that extra bullet that we put in the key messages, those initial batches of snow will accumulate really quickly because the ground is so cold. Okay, so it's not like, we're going to sit there and wait for it to begin accumulating. It's going to accumulate right from the get-go. All right, then as we head into midnight, then we see a change over to freezing rain. And our concern is growing about this area of freezing rain. Remember that line I talked about from Rockingham to Sanford to Raleigh to Rocky Mount? This is what I'm talking about right here. We're concerned that there could be perhaps a prolonged period of freezing rain into the overnight into Saturday morning, with the snow confined mainly north of 85. There's that I-85 again. We keep referencing that. Along and north of 85 is usually the coldest part of the area, and usually has the best chance to remain snow. And then that will go on for pretty much the overnight hours before it exits by around daybreak Saturday. Look at that rain line. I want to point out that rain line, where this is what I'm really, really struggling with, is where this rain line, this changeover is going to happen. Okay. Will it even happen at all? There's some folks here that think that this may not happen, that this may not change over to rain. There's just so much cold air in place. But the models have been very, I would say, persistent or on insisting that before it ends, that we'll probably see a transition to rain along and south of this line. That's been fairly consistent in the models. If the models are wrong, and if the models are underestimating the degree of cold air, this may not happen, or it could be further south. So but given the models have been very consistent with this changeover to rain, obviously that would limit the freezing rain amounts for places like Cumberland County, Sampson County, and Wayne County. So that's why those 3 counties in central North Carolina are not under the warning, because sometime in the middle of the night it may change there to rain, which would limit the ice accumulation. Okay, so anyway, there's how you have the evolution. This kind of fits our conceptual model in our heads, the way we think this is going to play out. But again, it's the weather. I mean, it's central North Carolina. It's always hard to find these changeover lines. But this is, this is our best thinking right at this point. Okay. All right. So again, not to reiterate, keep, this is basically the same thing I said, but just elaborated slightly differently. Area A, we think is going to be mostly snow the whole way through, maybe some sleet, 2 to 4 inches of snow there. Area B could be, could get an inch or two of snow before changing over to a mixed mixture of precipitation. It could be, it could switch back and forth. It could be freezing rain for a while, sleet for a while, snow for a while. I think at some point it's going to change to just freezing rain and do freezing rain for a while. But area C, I'm starting to have growing concern that area C, particularly the northern half of area C, could see up to a 1/4 inch of accumulation of ice and prolonged freezing rain, which increases the risk for power outages, down trees, and hazardous travel. So area C is kind of the wild card. Area C could get a lot of ice. Okay, especially if that changeover to rain holds off. If the changeover to rain for some unknown reason slides north, and obviously that could cut into ice totals, but I think area D is going to have the best opportunity for it to change to rain before it ends. But that probably wouldn't happen until after 3 a.m. Saturday morning. So yeah, I think area C is kind of the wild card. I'm a little, that one's always been the struggle area, and that's climatologically normal. Area C is always the sort of challenge. Even area B, the southern half, can be a challenge. It's just the nature of our weather here in central North Carolina. All right. So when you add it all up, here's 3-day snow accumulations. I'm going to change this so it says event accumulations. But basically, yeah, 2 to 3, maybe 4 inches of snow along and north of 85, an inch or two in that area B that I was referring to. And why are these snow amounts held back once you get south and east of Raleigh? Because that's where it changes over. It changes over to freezing rain the earliest. So naturally, snow amounts would be cut down. And once you get south of Clinton, we have nothing, because there's a good, that's the best, once you get south of Clinton, Sampson County, I'd be surprised if it didn't change to rain, and that's why we have basically nothing, because, eventually it will change to rain there. All right, that's snow. Here's ice. There's that wild card area, area C, that I was talking about, where I think there could be, up to a 1/4 inch of ice accumulation right here. 30 miles either side of a line from Rockingham to Sanford to Raleigh to Rocky Mount. This is kind of that tricky area. It could get a lot of ice. If somehow it stays colder, it could get more sleet. And by some odd way, if that warm air really makes a good push northward, it could be less. It could be more rain, more in the way of rain. But I think that latter solution is probably the least likely, just given how cold it's been and will be. So anyway, I think there's just about as equal chance of these amounts being lower because we stay longer sleet, okay, than I think. Actually, I probably should have put that in this slide right here. In this slide, the area C wildcard areas, I'm affectionately calling it. I think if there's any error, it could be colder and we get more sleet, and that cuts down on ice. Okay, I think that's more likely than for the rain to push further north, and to cut down on the ice. So anyway, that's a challenge area. All right, so that's the ice. Timing wise, again, things kind of, it starts to look threatening during the day tomorrow, but things really kind of go downhill tomorrow after 6 p.m. tomorrow night. I probably, it'd be best if folks could just be home or wherever they're going to be by 6 p.m. and just plan on staying there through Saturday. That's the best way to stay safe. Just stay home. Don't try to go out if you can avoid it. I know some people like me have to work and don't have a choice, but if you have the ability to not go out, and just stay home late Friday through Saturday, that's your best bet, quite frankly. And then, but be ready for some possible power outages, especially if those higher ice amounts come to pass. And then watch out Sunday morning and Monday morning for some black ice on the roads as the whatever ends up accumulating thaws during the day and then refreezes at night. Okay. These are the key messages I showed at the beginning. I'll let you read those on the slides in your inbox. Nothing different than what I showed earlier, just reiterating. Again, here's a lot of helpful resources as you're waiting to pass the time until the precipitation begins. Try clicking on all these. I think you're going to find a wealth of information that can supplement these briefings and help keep you informed. So definitely check some of these out. Our next briefing will be PowerPoint slides. That will be out by 8 o'clock tomorrow morning or sooner if conditions warrant. The next live webinar will start at 9:30 tomorrow morning and will remain on all day with hourly updates. And don't forget about the safety aspect of this. Be sure if you have the opportunity to share this with folks in your sphere of influence, be sure to pick off some of these safety slides and email them out to your friends and family and coworkers and colleagues. This is how to prepare in a timeline fashion. And then since I am concerned about ice and power outages, definitely make good use of this safety graphic that shows how to stay safe during power outages, how to use generators safely, how to stay warm indoors if your power goes out. So definitely help us get that safety word out. Okay, so that's our briefing here, 5:30 on this 9th of January 2025.